Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Grudge. Grudge, also known by its original title Kin, is a Turkish crime thriller that tells the story of a police officer named Harun, who's celebrating winning the Policeman of the Year award from his police station and is having a night out with his squad mates, but shortly after that celebration takes place, he's assaulted by a taxi driver and barely succeeds in killing him. Harun wipes away as much evidence of the killing as he can in an attempt to cover up his tracks, but things take a turn for the worse the next day when that same attacker's dead body is found hanging on a crane outside the police station where he works, after which Harun finds himself embroiled in a conspiracy in which he's both a detective and a fugitive. The movie very much hinges, for the most part, on one central character at large, so there's a lot of personal factors that go into it. There are other supporting characters in the movie as well that play a role to an extent, but Harun is very much in the center of the spotlight. Harun was a great protagonist for this movie's story. He's very much a good man at heart who did one bad thing, and there's lots of evidence to show how he's a good man. He has a loving family, a great relationship with all of his squad mates, and he's humble on top of all of that, so we instantly feel sorry for him as a character when he gets caught up in this mess. The dual mystery at play in which Harun tries to solve a murder that he committed while also unraveling the conspiracy that he's found himself involved in is interesting to watch play out because we constantly see him weighing the pros and cons of each decision that he has to make, all while trying to do his job at the same time, and it's really thrilling to see play out. The only thing I didn't really like about Harun as a character is that he doesn't emote all that much throughout this movie's story. He carries the same blank expression on his face and the same tone of voice for pretty much 90% of this movie's runtime, and even when something more substantial happens on screen, like the death of a character for example, and he has to react to that, it's not acted very well. That thing aside though, like I said, Harun was a great character overall. I like how typical and gritty he is as a police officer. Everything from the aged cookie duster mustache to the faded trench coat that he's wearing throughout his investigation was thoroughly enjoyable for me. It might have been a bit cliche, but for me it still felt authentic. And Harun's character and design reflect the overall narrative at large, being a hard-boiled detective mystery with lots of different story variables at play, and in this regard there are both pros and cons to its presentation. I will start by saying that the premise is excellent. Just the idea of a police officer trying to solve a murder mystery of his own making is an intriguing concept, and it makes sense the way that it's framed out in the beginning. He can't just come out and say that he killed the guy in self-defense, because if he did, he'd likely get wrangled up in a lot of legal paperwork and lose out on a police chief promotion to someone else, and that promotion gets talked about a lot throughout this movie's events. I was also surprised at the quality and intensity of some of the action scenes in this movie. They certainly aren't blockbuster level by any means, but it's just nice to see choreographed bloody fistfights and gunfights, and the few special effects that are present in this movie aren't computer generated, and that alone gets an A+ from me. Being a realistic police story though, it's not all about the action. There's a lot of investigation elements at play as well, in which the police officers are trying to solve the murder mystery by gathering as many clues as they can. This is where the movie starts to slow down quite a bit and loses its enjoyability. And I get it, it makes sense to have investigation in a police movie. I'm not faulting the movie for that aspect, it just feels slow the way it's all paced out. The vast majority of the investigation in this movie is a police officer sitting at a desk watching surveillance video after surveillance video after surveillance video, and after a while it just starts to get old. Also, on a similar note, with the amount of surveillance videos that the police officers were able to gather and get their hands on, I feel like it should have been a lot easier to arrest Harun for his crimes than it ended up being. There are quite a few scenes where the police officers will find a lead, chase after it, miss out on it, come back to the station empty-handed, get yelled at by their boss, and then they resume their investigation and they're back to square one all over again. This exact same formula happens at least 3 times as far as I can recall anyway, and it keeps from anything important getting done with the main story at hand. This is further exacerbated by subplots and story beats which drag down the movie's enjoyment for me. Ordinarily, a subplot and story beat should be implemented to strengthen and supplement the main story that's supposed to be taking place, but in this movie's case I found them to be little more than a distraction. There's a drug angle thrown in to explain the behaviors and actions of certain suspects who Harun and the police officers cross paths with, but it never goes anywhere. Aside from providing a hilarious interrogation scene at the halfway point of the movie, it never gets truly connected to the conspiracy or investigation at hand. And there was such a lame payoff involved with the discovery of who the driver's killer was. It was actually just the person responsible for hanging the body on the crane. After all that time and hard work that the police officers put into their investigation, after all that time we'd seen them on screen doing their thing, the killer suddenly reveals himself out of nowhere, and that reveal was a total buzzkill. By far my least favorite thing about this movie though is its ending, and I'm obviously not going to spoil it in this review, but I hate it when a movie throws in a twist and completely turns itself upside down in the last 5 or 10 minutes of its story. It's just cheap, especially when it's rushed and poorly thought out, which in this case it is. Overall, Grudge is an average crime thriller that has an interesting perspective on revenge with its main narrative, but it gets bogged down by a ton of filler that simply doesn't need to be there. If you enjoyed realistic crime thrillers told from the perspective of the police and you can handle dealing with a twist ending, I suppose you could enjoy watching this movie to a certain extent. I enjoyed watching Harun's investigation unfold, and the story is quite thrilling where it counts, but the story's pacing is all over the place, and in this movie's case, the journey ended up being much better than the destination. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review on Grudge. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Italian drama, My Brother and My Sister. Bye bye!